Howdy, guys, and welcome to Cliff Notes, and welcome to night number 79 of the Overnight Feed recaps for Big Brother Season 27. A good Thursday to y'all. All right, we are down to the final four house guests for the season. We've got Ava and Ashley on the block. Morgan has the veto, but almost certainly will not be using that veto tonight on our Thursday night show, which means that Vince will be the only vote. The only person that's not HOH, isn't on the block. He'll have the only vote. He'll be deciding who goes home tonight, Ava or Ashley. Yeah, we're down to that part. All right, we had Ava making some pitches to Vince yesterday, but it seems like the plan right now, at least, is to send Ava out the door. But since it's Vince making the decision, it isn't guaranteed that he doesn't send Ashley home instead. There's some pros and cons looking at both of those. Ava would be more likely to take Vince over Morgan to a final two. But in doing so, Vince also risks Ashley's jury vote if he sends her home now instead of final three. And he needs all the votes he can get. So he does run the risk of potentially getting Morgan upset with him, getting Ashley upset with him if he does that. But again, on the other side, does he really trust that Morgan would take Ashley over him? And if Ashley was to win the final HOH, would she take Morgan? Would she take Vince? A little more uncertainty if she's in that final three as opposed to Ava. But again, it's also about jury management, jury votes, things like that. And I expect that he'll end up sending Ava out the door, taking Ashley to final three with himself and Morgan. All right, with all that being said, let's talk about the live feeds that took place yesterday. We'll start early evening with that, and we'll start the conversation with Ava pitching to Vince. As I mentioned, she tried to do what she could. So Ava's pitching to Vince. Ava's saying she doesn't think that Morgan will use the veto tonight, and I don't either. But she does think that Morgan might cut Vince at final three and take Ashley over him, since Morgan would win in a landslide over Ashley. There's been a lot of talk that, hey, Morgan's got this thing unlocked if she just makes it to the end. But Ava's downplaying that a little bit and saying, look, we don't know how the votes would go, you versus Morgan. But if Morgan takes Ashley to the end, absolute landslide. There's no way that Ashley beats Morgan in this final thing. And I think Vince is listening to this and getting worried about that, because he does ask the question of Morgan a little bit later. We'll cover that in a second. But yeah, Ava's saying, look, yeah, she'll take Ashley because she knows she'll beat her. She's talking about if Vince helps her stay tonight, takes Ava into the final three. In exchange, Ava will help Vince get jury votes. She says something along the lines of, hey, Will would be so happy to see that you chose to take me to final three. That alone would probably get you Will's vote. I could probably work with Kelly and maybe get you Kelly's vote as well. Really? I'm not sure that Kelly's vote's going to Vince. Keanu's probably isn't going to Vince either. But Ava's saying, I could work with Kelly. Will would be so excited. You'll get his vote if you just take me to the final three. She's also swearing to Vince. She says, look, if you take me to the final three and then Morgan wins the final HOH, she sends me home. So it's you versus Morgan. I'll remember that you took me to the final three. It was you, not Morgan, who took me to the final three. And I swear to you, Vince, you'll have my jury vote if you do that. Again, Vince needs all the votes he can get. So Ava's making some valid arguments about all of this. Now, the other part, too, is the fear that Ava wins against anyone because everyone likes Ava so much. Of course, she has to win that final HOH comp to make it there in the first place. Now, if I'm Vince, I'm sitting there thinking that, I could take Ava, and if Morgan really does believe that Ava beats any of us because everyone loves Ava that much, it makes it much more likely that Morgan takes me instead of Ava if Morgan wins the same thing. That lot of stuff going into this decision. But Ava's saying, yeah, I swear I'll vote for you over Morgan. You just have to take me to final three. Ava's also complaining a little bit about Morgan and Ashley. She's saying, they just keep going on, Vince, about this Lauren issue. They won't let it rest. They keep going on. They keep talking about how Lauren just absolutely had to go from gameplay standpoint. It was time for her to go. And I don't like it. I love Ava. I know you liked Ava as well. And I'm tired of them going on and on about it. And Vince agrees. Said, yeah, they are. They're going on way too much about it. So a little connection here with these two. with their common fondness for Lauren. All right. Meanwhile, this is all going on downstairs, and we got Morgan and Ashley upstairs watching on the monitor. That monitor doesn't have volume, so you can't hear what's being said, but they can see Ava talking to Vince. Ashley, in particular, is very interested in what may be being said. Of course, it could be her if it's not Ava; it's her going home. So she's certainly paying attention. She said, "Oh my gosh, she must have said something to Vince because he's looking very nervous right now. Oh look, she had to say something." So Ashley definitely paying attention to this. All right, now we have a little bit later Ava and Ashley talking and just kind of commiserating with each other. Say, we did good. We made it this far and all that. And you know what? One of us, this is the end of the road, but yeah, we did well. Ashley is saying, with the anticipation it's probably Ava going home. Ashley is saying that if Ashley somehow, if she makes it to final three, if she wins that final HOH at that point, that she feels she's not taking Morgan. If she wins a final HOH, she's taking Vince. If she was able to beat Vince in a final two, she says, if I can do that, Ava, man, I'm taking you and your boyfriend to a 5-star dinner at that point in time. So yeah, she's already. I don't think that's bribes or anything. It's not to that level, but she certainly let Ava know that if I get there, we'll make sure that you're taken care of. All right, Ashley is talking about the whole New York City scene. Not just a 5-star dinner, but just New York City in general. Ashley's talking about how cool it's going to be hanging out with other Big Brother players that live in the New York City area. She's looking forward to that. But Ava is saying, whatever. I've got enough friends. She said, I really just want to hang out with my other Big Brother 27 people. I don't really care about hanging out with all the rest of them. So a little bit different feelings about what's going to happen after they get done. Ashley is talking about trying to film stuff, that she wants to do some collaborative stuff with Ava. She's like, we'll film it next week. We'll do it. And Ava's like, I just kind of want to hang with my family next week. So a little disconnect between the two of those as far as how their after Big Brother life is going to be. All right, while this is going on, we've got Morgan and Vince in the kitchen. Morgan is fixing dinner. She became the chef at the end of this thing. Once everyone else departed. So Morgan's fixing dinner. Vince is just in there kind of hanging with her. Mainly talk about family and life and just general stuff for the most part. But we do have a little bit of conversation. Vince is talking about being difficult in the house. Well, one thing, he talks about how he feels like he's played just from day one. He's kind of been in a desperation mode. That he's upset so many people, that he was just trying to survive, that he promised a lot of people different things just every day. And he says, I was trying to get everyone to be okay with me because I was so desperate and so nervous about getting sent home. So he's talking about some of the early days a little bit. He's talking about the difficulties in this game. He says, it's hard to know what is game and what is real life happening inside the Big Brother house. And I think that gets back to some of these coded questions that he keeps bringing up with Morgan about how much is game and how much may not be game. And he's saying, it's so hard not knowing which is which while we're playing the game. He does ask Morgan at one point, says, hey, can I ask you a question? Yeah, Vince, what do you got? And he says, him haws around, finally says, was my game sloppy? And he says, do you think I'm a loser? And Morgan says, yeah, ask me the question that you really want to ask me, because I know that's not it, Vince. What are you really waiting around to ask me? I can tell. I know that's not it. Eventually, he does ask her another question. He says, hey, look, did you think about using the veto? Have you thought about using the veto tonight? And if she did, that means Vince then has to go on the block and almost certainly gets evicted. So he's saying, have you thought about using the veto, or did you think about using the veto? She says, no, I haven't, because it doesn't make any sense for my game. So you can keep asking, but yeah, I have not considered, will not be using the veto, Vince, just the way it is. They're talking a little bit about the 1 week where they were most at odds with each other, and that's that whole Lauren Morgan week and getting her up. Do you not put her up and all of that? They're talking about that. Morgan is saying, look, I know, Vince, that you were just waiting and hoping that it would be me versus Lauren. One of us would take out the other person and do it for you, and then it would be taken care of. And I know that's what you were hoping would happen. And as it turns out, that is what happened. I took out Lauren, and here we are. But you were just wanting one of us to take out the other person. And Vince is saying, no, that's not what I wanted. That was never what I wanted. You always were going to be my top choice. You're not correct on that, Morgan. He is denying it, and I think she's kind of right on that. Morgan is saying that she'll always wonder about who he would have picked if it came down to it. And she's saying, and I'm wondering, would you do it to me again? So there's certainly a little bit of nervousness from Morgan about how loyal Vince potentially could be to her. What's that? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 4, 5, 6 times, well, shame on Keanu, right? There's certainly a reason to be a little bit nervous about how loyal Vince may truly be. And Morgan's vocalizing that a little bit right here. All right, there's talk about the final two, if they make it to the final two. Hopefully they'll make it to the final two. How does that work with the final Q&A, the questions, and just general format for that final little bit of the season that we're almost to? All right, we did have dinner for the group. I think they made some kind of pesto chicken, something or other. Vince at one point said his contribution was a pesto. So they did have that. They had the little tiny table. It is a cool feeling in the Big Brother house. You start off with this big table that holds 16 or 17 people. And here at the end, you got this tiny little coffee table. And it really is a very in-your-face indication of just how far you've traveled in the game. I still remember our tiny little table. But they're having dinner at the tiny little table a little bit. A little bit later, we do have Ava again pitching to Vince. She's talking about apparently Ashley had some conversations throughout the day and evening about money and needing money and this and that. Talking about that, and Ava's complaining about it. She's saying, "Look, Ashley's got an apartment in New York City. She's better off than she's claiming. No one can be too broke and go into this house for 3 months." You've got to have a certain level here. And so she's complaining about Ashley's got the apartment in New York City and all that. She's irritated with some of the money conversations that Ashley's been having. She finishes up this little pitch by telling Vince that, hey, I will take you to the final two. If you take me over Ashley, I'm sure not taking Morgan. You don't have to worry about that if I am here. Ashley and Morgan are friends. You don't know for certain what Ashley might do. But with me, I absolutely would take you to the final two. There's no reason I would take Morgan over you, Vince. And all that's fine and good, but that's all contingent upon Ava winning the final HOH. And she just hadn't done anything to show that's a high likelihood. So I think that by itself is probably enough to not really give a lot of strength to this argument. But she's trying to the very end. All right, we've got Vince and Morgan upstairs in the HOH bed. Of course we do. Yeah, go what? It wouldn't be Big Brother without the two of them upstairs having late night conversations and hang out in the bed and all. So we got them upstairs in the HOH bed. Morgan has put, they call it ice slugs. I think they said that was Keanu's basically eye mask. She's put ice slugs on her and on Vince. So they're wearing these things around for a little while. They're talking about other house guests, how many comp wins they had when they left, just going through the house guests, saying some nice things about a lot of the different house guests. More talk about the accomplice and who the accomplice could be. Their assumption that there'll be some big reveal at the end of this thing. So there's more talk about the identity of the accomplice. Morgan thinks it could easily be Ava. And again, she apparently got a text or something before the season started, maybe while they're in sequester, that made her think that Ava had something to do with it. Don't know the details, but she still thinks that it was Ava who's the accomplice. I just don't think it's going to be anyone that's in the house. Well, but we'll see. We'll see if there even is a reveal of any sort. But Morgan's thinking it's Ava. Vince is joking, saying, I think it's you, Morgan. We'll find out. Morgan's talking about that she likes Vince's vulnerability, and he says that being vulnerable is kind of new to him. Really? Really? It seems like you wear it well, Vince. But he's saying it's a new thing for him to be this vulnerable. All right, Vince has a... More questions, more of these deep questions that Vince has. He has a long build up. Like, I want you to sit down, or I want you to lay down. I can't remember what it was. Get on the bed, please. Be ready. I've got a question for you. I need to ask you a question. Finally, he says, do you really want to sit next to me at final two? Will you take me over Ashley? If, okay, you said earlier that you're not going to use a veto. So it's the three of us, Ashley, you and me. But will you take me to the final two and not Ashley? And Morgan says, well, I absolutely want to, Vince. She didn't say, yes, I'm going to. She said, I absolutely want to, Vince. I don't know if he caught on with that or not, but not quite the same statement. All right, Vince is saying that Ashley had said once that once Ava was gone, that Morgan or Vince would likely win the final HOH over Ashley, but it doesn't matter because Ashley would probably go to the final two with either one of them. In other words, Ashley is saying that you would cut me and take her, and she's saying that I would cut you and take her, that Ashley is kind of just almost certain for final two because neither one of us is going to take the other person. Morgan is saying, yeah, that's interesting. She said that. That's very interesting that she said that. But Morgan's also saying, I just refuse. Everyone keeps saying that I'm a lock for final two. And that therefore no one would want to take me to the end. She's saying, I just don't believe it. I don't think I'm a lock. I don't think Ava or Ashley are a lock to win. I don't think I'm a lock to win. It's just there's a lot more that goes into this. So I'm not going in thinking I'm a lock if I can just make it to the end. All right, we do have Vince. I think he may have been in the diary room or in the shower. I can't remember which, but Morgan is talking to the cameras. Lots of talk about what to do if she does win the final HOH. She's wondering if she has a better chance to win her game versus Vince or Ashley if she's sitting next to either one of them. I kind of think either one of them, Morgan, especially if you're in a position where you're having to decide between the two, which means you won the final HOH. And I think that absolutely puts you over the top. But she is worried if taking Vince versus Ashley, one gives her a better chance than the other at winning. She's thinking that the jury's going to focus much more on her comp win. She's comfortable that she can really promote and has a good resume of her comp wins. She does, but she's thinking there'll be a lot more people paying a lot more attention to the social game, social interaction, loyalty, all these other things as well. And she's a lot more worried about that. She's considering as well, she's thinking about how much blood Vince has on his hands, which way votes could go, her versus him, and just generally thinking things out. She did not have her M&Ms, which is a bit of a surprise, but she's still strategizing. She's still figuring how this is going to work. All right, we've got Ashley telling Ava that don't worry, Ashley's going to keep Will's Angels alive. I hadn't heard that referenced in a while, but Ashley's still thinking about it. They're still talking about the judges, which I guess is still in alliance. But she's telling Ava, don't worry about it. I'll be the last remaining Will's Angel, and I'll keep it alive. Ava's thinking it's possible that Morgan could actually turn on Vince in the end. They've been pushing it, but she's thinking there is a possibility that Morgan could end up kicking Vince out at the end and taking Ashley instead. Or I suppose Ava, if she can convince Vince to keep her. Ashley is figuring that the final HOH comp, part 3 of the final HOH, is a booth competition. It always is. And that anyone could win that all she has to do is win one of the first parts of the HOH competition. And then she's got as good a chance of anyone at that booth competition after that. All right, we've got Morgan and Vince talking a little bit about tomorrow night, which is now tonight, the eviction ceremony and the final ceremony and just everything else. Talking about which clothing to wear at eviction and at final. They're talking about kind of the schedule of what's going to go on, mentioning that they think they'll have the HOH, first part of the HOH competition this evening at some point, but they're also thinking they'll probably have that recap dinner, which we will be seeing tomorrow night. So it probably will be tonight, unless it's a recap breakfast or something. But yeah, they'll have the recap conversation tomorrow on tomorrow night's episodes. And while they may not realize that, they do know time is short. So they're thinking they'll probably have a recap dinner and then do the first part of the HOH competition right after that. And Vince says something about, oh yeah, they'll feed us a gourmet meal and then get us out there to do some kind of hard physical challenge. So they do talk about that. Morgan is talking about Keanu and how they're talking about Keanu and how he was so ready. He knew so much stuff. He just had it down pat, all the dates, competitions, things like that. That dice game that we saw a little teaser on at the end of the episode, that he had that figured out. He would have been so good at all of that. She mentions the fact that Keanu was using the Bible and Proverbs to help remember dates of all the competitions and evictions and things like that. Kind of reminds me of what I was doing. I had my own little Bible, and I was folding down pages to certain letters of chapters and things like that to use as a prompt to help me remember all the dates and events and things like that. So yeah, there's all kinds of things you can do while you're in the house. So they're mentioning that Keanu did that. All right, while Vince is in the shower, Morgan is practicing her final two speech, talking about being honest and loyal, about being called a snake early in the game, about being a gamer girl. So she's trying to start to build her arguments itself. The fact that she's still talking about being honest and loyal makes me think that she probably, at least for now, is still thinking that she'll hold on to Vince and not cut him loose at the very end. I think, but again, we got a few days for that. All right, we've got Ashley and Ava talking about past dating and things like that while they're downstairs. Eventually, though, Ava and Ashley and Morgan are all three heading upstairs for the girls' night that was promised, that was discussed. So they're heading up for girls' night. Vince ends up hanging out for girls' night, which Morgan was worried last night, so the night before last, saying, "Oh, I don't want you to be alone if we do girls' night." Well, you don't have to worry about it because Vince is an honorary girl, I suppose, this evening. So it's girls' night plus one. So we've got all four upstairs hanging out. More dating talk. Ashley, I'm not going to cover all of it, but a few things that definitely jumped out at me. Ashley is saying that for her to date a guy, the guy has to make six figures. Ava's saying that she doesn't really care as much about money as she does just the work ethic. Talking about her boyfriend works at a coffee shop, then comes home and does music for 6 to 8 hours a night, and it's all about the work ethic more so than the money itself. Ashley is saying that she only dates super successful guys, only guys that are at her level or higher. She never dates younger, so she definitely has her ideas about who she wants to date, and Ava does too. And they're not necessarily the same kind of ideas. Ashley is saying because Ava said something about not caring where a guy works, at Walmart, wherever else, and Ashley says, if I brought home a guy from Walmart, my parents wouldn't even let him in the door. And Ava's saying she didn't care. She says her boyfriend could work at Walmart, wherever, and she wouldn't care at all about that. All right, we've got Ava and Ashley not believing that Vince doesn't actually have a job. And Vince is saying, "Yeah, I just sold my startup," and they're all laughing and all that. But yeah, they're talking about that. Morgan is saying that, talking about some of her past dating history. She's saying that at 23, she could have married a multimillionaire. And then she says, I don't remember how she said, that's an October discussion or something. In other words, I'll give you more details after the show. But apparently she had someone that she could have married and didn't when she was younger. Ashley's talking about that, she likes the guys that are six figures on, but she doesn't like the super rich New York City guys, in response to Morgan talking about the guy when she was younger and all that. All right, Ava Ava at one point says, "All right, Vince, cover your ears." And then she mentions that broke guys are a little bit better in the bedroom. That she just, and I think Morgan starts laughing. She says, "Yeah, the girls all know that, right?" So she's talking about that. She's Ava's saying that she couldn't have done Big Brother without her boyfriend paying her rent for this month. She's saying, but at the same time, she said, "I wouldn't think twice about supporting him, letting him go off pursue his dreams and passions and all that. If I could do it, I'd be happy to support him as well. It does not matter to me." All right, Ashley is saying, Ashley's saying that she doesn't date broke people because she doesn't hang out with broke people. That she goes to social clubs for corporate people, and this breaks into conversation. Apparently, I guess not being from New York City myself, but apparently there's a lot of social clubs up there. People join these things. You have to be a member, and then you get to go hang out and all that. And so they're talking about that quite a bit. Ashley, Ashley always playing the game a little bit. At one point, Ashley takes this dating conversation and kind of tries to drive an extra little wedge between Morgan and Vince, because she says, "Hey, Vince, why do you like Kelsey so much? What is it about Kelsey that really attracts you to her?" And remember, Kelsey is his other real world girlfriend. She says, tell me about Kelsey." So he talks a little bit about why he likes her so much. Ashley then asks Ava the same question about why she likes her boyfriend, Caleb. And so they have a little discussion. Morgan's kind of quiet about that part. Morgan, though, afterwards does start talking about when she was younger, dating some real jerks. She had some other words for them, but some real jerks when she was younger. She's got some wild stories that I'll leave off here, but it sounds like she probably did date some real jerks based on what she said. So she had a few stories to tell. All right, finally, about 3:30 or so in the morning, which is awful late for Ava. 3:30 or so, Ava said, "I'm done. I can't do any more of that." Ashley says, "I'm the same thing." So girls' night is not the same as girls' sleepover, as we quickly discover, because Ava and Ashley head out the door, heading back downstairs. Of course, the final night in the HOH room is going to be Morgan and Vince. So Ava and Ashley head downstairs. We do get to see them do some dancing in the downstairs bathroom and all of that. But from that point on, it turns into the Morgan and Vince night. Morgan and Vince talking about their last night in the HOH room, both of them hoping they're in the final two chairs. Morgan is saying that one of them needs to win the final HOH because she's pretty sure that Ashley will not take her to the final two. Vince is talking about missing these nights, that he'll remember her being Morgan. He'll remember her for his entire life. He's going to miss these nights. He says he loves her so much. He's so grateful for her. He doesn't want it to be over. Over it soon shall be, Vince, one way or the other. All right, Morgan is asking if them hanging out, if in Vince's opinion, them hanging out is more than company to him. And he says, I'm really kind of afraid to answer that. I don't want to give the wrong answer. I'm just afraid to answer that question about, is it company or is it something else? He asked Morgan, says, hey, same question to you. Is it just company, or what is it? And she says, that's a Monday, October conversation. In other words, after the show's over, after the cameras are off, we'll have that conversation at that point in time. There's going to be a lot of speculation once they get out of the house. All right, and then finally we've got Vince saying that it's way more than comforting to be with her. And there you go. And then with that, mic drop, I suppose, lights out around 3:45 in the morning. They finally call it a night. Everyone's stirring around a little bit, but everyone basically in bed, asleep. And there you have it, guys. Tonight we've got the eviction. I assume we'll get some live feeds. And if so, I will certainly be back in the morning to give you a recap. But at some point, we are going to be losing the live feeds between now and Sunday. Not sure when that's going to be, but I'll be here to report them as long as they keep them going. It's been an honor to cover these things with you guys. It's been a lot of fun. Drug a few times here and there, but another season of Big Brother. For those of you in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, check out my Instagram or Twitter. We're going to be doing a finale party on Sunday night, which will be a lot of fun. But guys, have a great Thursday. Let's see what happens this evening, and then we'll hopefully talk in the morning some more about what happens with the live feeds after that. Have a great one, guys. SKD 143. Cheers, my friends.